So I'm all for having fun. Something I'm not all for as much is that fun is sort of being a little bit subversive. It's a little bit mysterious in its motives. And one thing comes to mind, and I predicted this as soon as it came out, and I heard it was coming out. Uh, and I don't want to offend anyone because I know the group of people that plays this is extremely defensive about playing it. But Pokemon Go is really a popular game right about now, and it looks really fun. I've never played it because I didn't really grow up with Pokemon. It's not anything that I was interested in when I was a kid. I never really liked RPGs, which I know is like heresy, but I never could get into the top-down isometric RPGs where you walk around, there's random events, and you have to fight things. That just wasn't for me. I played like Myst when I was a kid, and like first-person shooters. I played, Shadow Warrior, Duke Nukem, Doom, mostly Doom 2 actually, and I played Myst and Riven, which is kind of an odd mix of games. But those were like my games when I was a kid. I didn't have a Game Boy until I was like 12, so Pokemon just didn't really do it for me. I was never into that kind of game, and I really just can't get into them. Like, I can't even get into Final Fantasy as much as I try. Like, I really do try to play it. I just can't get into it. So Pokemon Go is not something that I have played really at all. I've seen other people play it. I've seen 2 or 3 other people play it, but I've never actually played it myself because it's not really something that I'm into, which might actually work out in my favor. While it works against me in terms of cultural relevance, it does work for me in terms of privacy because, you see, Pokemon Go kind of tracks a lot of stuff that you do, and it's perfect when you think about it. It's a perfect delivery system. What if you wanted to track the movement of a bunch of different people and you wanted them to do it voluntarily? How do you do that? Well, first you get them all to buy smartphones, right? Because that's what everyone now has, is a smartphone, and everyone buys their smartphone. Everyone's got one. I've got one. I'm guilty of that too. We've all got our smartphones that are basically tracking us all the time. And now you have an app that has you turn on your camera with GPS and data enabled, so you can see, where people are, and you can also get a camera view of where these people are located. Huh. Well, that's what Pokemon Go essentially is. And it sounds, that sounds like paranoid conspiracy theory, whatever, but it's actually true. And it didn't start with Pokemon Go, by the way. There was a game before Pokemon Go that came out called Ingress that was made by the same company in conjunction with Google Maps, and it also used GPS data. The only thing it lacked was the augmented reality aspect of the camera, but you still would go around and collect little beacons, and you'd use them to get hit points, and there were other teams, and it was all kind of weird. Pokemon Go was basically an upgrade to the game Ingress, which was also on smartphones. And I actually played it for a very small amount of time, and it was actually pretty fun. But there's been some major privacy issues with Pokemon Go. One of which was that it was actually reading your Gmail and then sending that information out to wherever it sends that information out to. We don't actually know. That's the other creepy thing about Pokemon Go, is it sends information out over, the cloud, as everyone likes to call it, but we don't actually know where that goes exactly. Millions of people, according to the Wall Street Journal, who downloaded the runaway hit Pokemon Go game to their iPhones over the past weekend, granted massive amounts of user data to the game's developer. The company, Niantic Incorporated, fixed that Tuesday with an app update, but still, that means that until Tuesday of this week, until yesterday, people are still sending that information out to who knows. And it's not like you need to constantly be monitoring people either, because if you get it for just a short period of time, it's still useful. The Guardian has a story about Senator Al Franken, the former comedian, although he may still be a comedian, doing the world's most interesting performance art ever. Senator Al Franken demands Pokemon Go release privacy information. You see, the insanely popular game is collecting user data and sharing it with anonymous third parties, according to the New York Times. Senator Al Franken of Minnesota said in a letter to the company CEO on Tuesday, again, yesterday. The lawmaker wrote a letter to Niantic Incorporated's CEO and demanded that it hand over that information to the public. And he had a list of demands for further information regarding the app's privacy settings, saying, "I'm concerned about the extent to which Niantic may be unnecessarily collecting, using, and sharing a wide range of users' personal information without their appropriate consent," he wrote. Now, that might sound crazy, because it kind of does. like you watch the different movies, the sci-fi movies, and there's a plot twist where the thing everyone has is actually turning against them or whatever, but it doesn't start with Pokemon Go. I'm not telling you don't play Pokemon Go. I'm telling you should be aware of what's happening around you. It doesn't start with Pokemon Go. It definitely doesn't end there because this has been going on for a very long time. Selling user information, which is what I'm pretty sure Niantic is doing, is nothing new. I don't want to make baseless accusations, but it follows the trend. Think about Facebook. Facebook is a massive social media network. Most people in the planet are using it. That's a weird thing to say. It's weird to be able to say most people in the world are using something. Like chances are you're using something if you're a human being. Chances are you're on Facebook. And that's weird to be able to say about any product. But chances are you're using Facebook. You're on Facebook at some point. You have it on your smartphone. You have it on your computer. You might even have it on your BlackBerry. I don't know. People are using Facebook on everything, their iPads, whatever. It's even integrated into different devices. You sign into different accounts using your Facebook login. We all do it. I do it. Lots of people do it. It's not like you're dumb for doing it or anything, because I do it too. Maybe I'm dumb. We all do it. We all do it. We all have a Facebook account. But here's the thing about Facebook. And this isn't to say, well, get rid of your Facebook account. It's to say, be aware of what goes on Facebook and maybe don't share as much as you do already, or maybe you're already in tune with what's happening and you already know not to share a huge amount of information. But on Facebook, and this is going to sound really edgy, you are the product. And that's not a joke. You are the product on Facebook. And that's the same deal with YouTube. It's the same with Google Plus, with Gmail, with basically any online service. You are the product. You see, when you use Facebook, you're asked constantly to put in your information into it. Like when you set up your account on Facebook, it'll ask you, where are you? It'll ask you, where did you go to school? It'll ask you, how old are you? When's your birthday? It'll ask you, where did you live before? What's your current occupation? All these different things it'll ask you. It's like LinkedIn and Twitter mixed into one, kind of. Facebook has the functionalities of both of those things. And actually, Google bought LinkedIn in a massive deal not too long ago. And now we know why. We're going to talk about that later on here on Binary on Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240 and hotnewstalkradio.com. Like us on Facebook, by the way. Use your evil Facebook account to like to like us on Facebook. Go to facebook.com. Search for Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240. Be sure to like us there. You'll get exclusive live streams from us here at Hot News Talk Radio and exclusive interviews, particularly David Tulis has been doing a lot of investigative journalism about the issue of fluoride in the drinking water, trying to take a neutral stance on it. Is it good? Is it bad? What does it do? And why is it in our water exactly? Interviews with dentists, interviews with authorities at the water company that's putting it in the water, interviews with the public about it. Lots of good stuff. Hot News Talk Radio on Facebook. Be sure to check that out. Like us on Facebook, Hot News Talk Radio. Get us on the TuneIn Radio app for your smartphone, too. TuneIn Radio on your smartphone. You can download that, and you can listen to us streaming live to your smartphone anywhere in the world. Doesn't matter if you're out of range of our nice signal on AM 1240. You can still listen to us anywhere on the planet over the internet on your data connection. Hot News Talk Radio on Twitter. And we're on Twitter, by the way. But Hot News Talk Radio on TuneIn. And you can call in 423-800-8949. That's 423-800-8949 is the number to call in, 423-800-8949. You're the product on Facebook. And when you put in all this information, it's being sold then to different advertisers for targeted advertising. We all do it. By we, I mean companies. All companies market on Facebook in one way or another. I should say most companies market on Facebook in one way or another, because why wouldn't you? It's not like there's anything morally wrong with doing it, that's for sure. It's just a great way of targeted advertising, because people don't know how direct you can be with Facebook advertising. I mean, it's great. It's an amazing tool for advertisers, but it's a little bit shady how that information is had. It's not really shady because people do it voluntarily. It's just interesting that people do it, I think. It's sort of interesting psychologically. We want to fit in, so we'll give our information over to any source because it seems to be slightly reputable, because we've all heard of Facebook, so we assume it's trustworthy. It's interesting. We're doing the same thing, though, with Pokemon Go. And I suspect the company, Niantic, is going to be selling that user information to advertisers. I suspect that. I was reading the other day, actually, about companies, different small businesses that have been using Pokemon Go as a great advertising, a source of advertising. They'll set up a waypoint at their store, and people will come into the store to catch the Pokemon. You'll get a special 50% off if you're here to catch a Pokemon. I mean, it's genius. It's great, but you have to be aware that it is actually tracking you. And it might be selling a lot more information than you would want it to the point where some senators are even a little bit concerned about it. Now, I will say, without being hypocritical, I don't normally trust what senators are concerned about, because senators were concerned in the 80s and 90s about VHS tapes ruining the movie industry, right? Remember that? VHS tapes is going to ruin the movie industry. They'll tape their movies on TV and they'll never go to see another movie again. Little did they know that it would actually make the home video industry explode, and the movie companies would make tons and tons of money off of it, because guess what? The market evolves. Crazy concept, I know. But then these people go on to grow up and vote for Bernie. So go figure. Al Franken, though, who sits on the Senate Subcommittee on Privacy, Technology, and the Law, accused the company of collecting user info and potentially sharing it with third-party service providers or, hint, hint, advertisers. The Senate made 7 requests for additional information, such as a list of the third-party service providers that Niantic shares information with and their reasons for doing so. Now, obviously, Niantic doesn't have to do any of that. Niantic doesn't have to give over any information to the Senate, because this is only a request. It's not a subpoena for information. Good luck getting a subpoena for that info, because it's not been proven that the company Niantic behind Pokemon Go is doing anything wrong at all. And I'm not saying that they are. I'm just saying you should be privacy conscious when doing anything. There's no such thing as complete security. And maybe ask the question to yourself, do you really want to add one more thing that's going to track you in your day-to-day life? Pokemon Go has become a global phenomenon since its release last week. The augmented reality app has been downloaded 7.5 million times and boosted Nintendo shares by 53%, adding $7 billion to its market value. Franken, a former comedian on Saturday Night Live, gave Hanke until 12th of August, he's the CEO, to respond to his request. I don't think there's any consequence for not responding to his request, so I don't know. But that's what's going on in the world of Pokemon. Something interesting, by the way. And by the way, Pokemon is the root of all evil, by the way. I think Pokemon Go is actually the mark of the beast. And I say that completely unironically. I believe that Pokemon Go is the mark of the beast. I mean, think about it. You hold it in your hand, right? And it tracks everything you do. Maybe there's a 666 hidden somewhere in Pokemon Go. I don't know. I'm just saying maybe it's the mark of the beast, because I don't know. It could be. I'm theorizing. I'm speculating that possibly Pokemon Go is the mark of the beast. If it turns out I'm wrong, then something else is. But Pokemon Go probably is the mark of the beast. Unless it was actually Nero, in which case that was. But in this case, I'm pretty sure it's actually Pokemon Go. But enough about Pokemon Go, because you're probably tired about hearing about video games, right? Like, video games don't really appeal very much to the older gentleman, the guy who maybe smokes a little bit and goes fishing with his kids. That guy's a little bit maybe pessimistic about the future of video games, because he's going to say, well, that's what the kids play, and I'm grown up. I don't need to do that kind of thing. And you're probably right. Maybe I should quit playing games, but it's still fun. It's good recreation, and it does work the mind out quite a lot. I'll say that in defense of video games. There's nothing wrong with playing them. I remember when I was a kid, there was a big scare about playing video games is going to rot kids' brains and they're going to become killing machines. And actually, oddly enough, is the same people who said Pokemon was evil who said those kinds of things. So I don't know. I don't think it's bad at all. I think it's fine. By the way, I will say, in just a little bit, just to add an addendum to that story, I will say that now that Nintendo has an extra $7 billion worth of money, worth of stocks, Nintendo has $7 billion that it can worry about with collateral, basically. Nintendo is now a lot more likely to take risks with a new video game console, since it has now a new source of income that is really just going to keep printing money for it like the Nintendo DS did before it. So Nintendo is now a lot more likely to take more risks with a new home console. So I'm actually excited about that. We'll have to see how it goes, and that's enough about Nintendo for now. GM and NASA have built a robo-glove that amplifies the grip of astronauts and possibly factory workers, and really anyone else who can afford to buy a robotic glove. This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. This is Binary Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240 and hotnewstalkradio.com. Listen to us on the TuneIn Radio app on your smartphone. You can listen to us on Facebook on your computer as well. go to facebook.com, search for Hot News Talk Radio AM 1240, and in the tabs at the top of the page, you'll see radio plugin. Click on that, and boy presto, you're now listening to us, Hot News Talk Radio, on Facebook. A joint venture between General Motors and NASA to create a robotic glove that amplifies hand strength for astronauts in space is now coming down to Earth. Now, here's something interesting about this whole idea, by the way, of a amplified human physique. In space, it's actually surprisingly hard to move around. Now, it's both easy and hard. Here's the thing. The spacesuits that the astronauts wear nowadays actually really do restrict movement quite a lot. It makes it hard to bend your fingers because you've got a lot of resistance. You've got a thick metal or rubber and nylon, and I think there is aluminum into the glove as well. You got a thick layer around your hand. It's like wearing 3 or 4 gloves and trying to bend your fingers. You know how that is in winter? Maybe we don't down here, but not in Chattanooga so much. We did last winter. It was freezing cold. It was ridiculous. But you try to put, you wear 3 or 4 gloves and you try to bend your fingers. It's not so easy. But a robo power glove would increase your grip strength and might actually help you with that endeavor, which is why I'm sure NASA is funding it. GM has licensed the glove to Swedish biomedical firm Bioservo Technologies AB for refinement and to address other issues, as well as to include Bioserver's SEM, which is soft extra muscle technology, in a production glove, which I really hope I can buy, by the way. The pressure sensors in the fingertips determine when the user is actually holding something and where the tool would be needed. And when that is detected, it will increase your grip strength by, say, 15 to 20 pounds of pressure, or just 5 to 10, depending on the application. It's smart enough to know when to increase your grip strength and when not to. In addition to getting more grip with less pressure, the RoboGlove may reduce fatigue in hand muscles as well. According to GM, research shows fatigue can affect the worker after just a few minutes of gripping the same tool. According to Kurt Weiss, Vice President of GM Global Manufacturing Engineering, the successor to RoboGlove can reduce the amount of force that a worker needs to exert when operating a tool for an extended time or with repetitive motions. So this is a move to increase productivity, obviously, but it's also a thoughtful move to help the gentle laborer in his efforts, which is always a nice thing for the employer to think about. And I want to add a bit of a capitalistic argument to this. A happy worker is a productive worker. If you keep your workers happy, they're going to be very productive. Think about Google. It seems like the people at Google barely get any work done at all. When you look at their offices, you think, how could they ever get any work done? But Google's all about ideas. And if you look at Google's offices, they've got, beanbag chairs around. They've got like these weird video games and stuff that they play and test out. They've got all sorts of different recreational things in their offices. And that's because when you're working, you get mentally fatigued as well as physically fatigued. Because I can tell you, I love my job. I'm not making any complaint whatsoever about what I do. I want to make that very clear. And I'm truly sincere about that. I love what I do. My job is the best job on the planet, unless you think yours is, in which case yours is. But my job, in my opinion, is the best job you could ever have. It's amazing. And not many people could do what I do. And I like that. I like feeling like I'm kind of unique in that aspect. But when I work, I feel mentally fatigued sometimes. And that comes with any job, whether you love it or not. Sometimes you feel mentally fatigued. So, you play maybe a roguelike on your computer for like 30 minutes just to sort of get your mind off of things and to relax a little bit. And I think everyone does that. That's why solitaire is on every office computer on the planet. I never liked solitaire, so I play other things. But you sort of do that to get your mind off of things. And I think it's healthy for everyone to do that at some point. Like I have, if I were to have more interns than I do now, and I had asked them to do a task, and I see that they're eating lunch and playing, Dwarf Fortress or Minecraft for a little bit, I wouldn't be mad, because you have to do some things to get your mind off of things. And that's totally okay, because believe it or not, that actually increases productivity. So a happy worker is a productive worker. And that sounds really slave driver-ish, but I don't mean it to be that way at all, because I truly do value the people I work with. And I'm totally fine with them being a little bit recreational every now and again. And I think every employer should be that way too. So if you're an employer, maybe consider letting your workers, kick back for a little bit. Maybe have a corporate holiday one of these times and just kick back and relax. This is Binary here on Hot News Talk Radio AM 1240. HotNewsTalkRadio.com. Like us on Facebook, Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
They're soaring worldwide. Prices for gold and silver are soaring worldwide. Rick Davis wants you to take advantage of them. Go to Rick Davis right now. Rick Davis Gold and Silver. Get yours today. Your cash, and more cash. Go ahead, take advantage of them. Gold is soaring past $1,350 an ounce. That's $1,350 an ounce. Silver is out of this world too. Buy and sell Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds. Gold, silver, jewelry, rings, watches. Rick Davis has got what you want. Right on. Cash, and more cash. Rick Davis has got so much cash it's as tall as a billboard. And he wants to stuff it in your pocket. Cash, and more cash. Yours for the asking. Come on in today and watch metals rise up as high as Rick's billboard. Rick Davis Gold and Diamond, 5301 Brainerd Road. You know where it is. Come get your cash, and more cash. Grimm's Tactical. There's only one place to go for hard-to-find ammunition. Grimm's Tactical. 22 mags and 22 long rifle. Rip Armor ammo. You've got the right to keep and bear arms. And we've got the ammo for those on Grimm's Tactical. 22 mag, 22 long rifle, Rip Armor. A wide variety of ammo to fit all of your arm needs. At Grimm's Tactical, you'll be able to lock and load with our wide selection of ammo. Grimm's Tactical. Real men and their women shop at Grimm's Tactical. 8115 East Brainerd Road. Go to grimmstactical.com or call 637-8664. Grimm's Tactical. Like us on Facebook. Grimm's Tactical.
Rubber's tough, but foam rubber is soft. Foam rubber is the star at Stuffit Upholstery, which uses it to revive your couch, your embarrassing easy chair, your boat seat cushions. Stuffit Foam Rubber in Hickson covers Chattanooga and surrounding areas. Don't throw out that favorite easy chair that's grown haggard and barbaric. New life for your seat cushions. Premium auto-grade rubber foam for your restaurant, church, or business. Stuffit Upholstery brings comfort and relief. Go ahead, skid away from flat, dull, and droopy cushions. Relax, restore, revive. When comfort matters, stuff it. 4608 Hickson Pike, 877-1616. Ask for Larry. That's 877-1616.
On your signature, you can get $150,000. Can you believe that? $150,000 on your signature. Hi, I'm Bruce Krebs with the Entrepreneur Source. There's a program right now that you can get $150,000 on your signature with no pledge of collateral or personal guarantee. Call me at 423-875-5621 to learn more. 423-875-5621. You've been thinking about starting a business? Don't do it on your own. I have a proven track record for the last 13 years, a 96% success rate. I can guide you into a franchise where you will pay yourself through the startup phase with very low or little risk. Call me now. I'm Bruce Krebs at 423-875-5621. And make sure to listen to the Entrepreneur Hour every other Wednesday from 11 to 12 o'clock. Call me now, 875-5621.
I'm blowing everything up. We're starting over. I'm doing a new show. I want guys who push it to the middle of the table and go over the top. Take a risk, fail miserably. I'm right, and I'm not wrong, and I'll never back down. Conflict works. Allow it.
It's The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Right here and everywhere. Noon Eastern.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio with your Hot News Now update. He's armed, he's dangerous, he's on the loose. Curtis Brown, according to the police, has exchanged gunfire with the Chattanooga police in East Chattanooga late Monday night. His name has been released now. Once on scene, officers located him and they attempted to make contact with him peacefully, but they exchanged gunfire and a foot chase ensued. He managed to escape. The two officers who fire at him are on administrative leave as is normal procedure with an officer-involved shooting. He's now facing charges of unlawful possession and possession of a firearm during the commission of a dangerous felony and 2 charges of attempted murder. If you see Curtis Brown, do not attempt to make contact. Call 911 immediately. Firefighters pulled a woman out of her burning home at 5:30 a.m. today on Rubio Street. Officials say that they were called for help when a neighbor noticed that the woman's house was on fire They got it under control, pulled her out, and rescued her. Her condition's not known at this time. Investigators are trying to find out why her house burst into flames. If it's going on in the Tennessee Valley, it's going on Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Expect hazy sunshine, very hot and humid weather out there for the afternoon. Highs 95 to 97 tonight. Lows only to the lower 70s. Continued hot, well into the 90s again on Thursday. A slight chance of a stray shower or storm with scattered showers and storms more likely Friday. Dr. Ron Phillips has released the most important book he's ever written, The Unraveling of America. He pulls back the curtain and exposes those who are pulling the strings and unraveling the fabric of America. Available at ronphillips.org or Amazon. And I'm Source 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Core.
On AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
You ever agree to a terms of service agreement and then not really know what's in it? Because let's be honest, who actually reads the terms of service agreement on anything that they install? I mean, sometimes you do if it's really short, like Google summarizes terms of service agreements, sometimes called TOSs. You call them TOSs for short. Sometimes they'll shorten the TOS to be reasonably understandable. There's legalese in there, but there's bullet points that explain what the heck you're agreeing to. It turns out that in some terms of service agreements, because they all know that no one actually reads all the way through them, even lawyers don't, sometimes there's some interesting details in those terms of service agreements. You see, well, let's hear it from the source. The terms of service agreements require giving up firstborns, and users will gladly accept them. And while that's probably not legally binding, and I'm not sure exactly how legally binding a terms of service agreement is, it's still kind of funny. You see, in some different terms of service agreements for different, especially hipster type softwares, there's a lot of interesting stuff embedded in the text. A recent study concludes what everyone already knows. Nobody actually reads the terms of service agreement and privacy policies that will bombard you every single day whenever you install something or sign up for a website. A study that came out this month of July made the point all too clear. Most of the 543 university students involved in the analysis didn't even bother reading them before signing up for a fake social network site called NameDrop, which is actually a decent name for a social networking site, I will admit. The students believed was real, but it wasn't. Those who did glossed over important clauses, and the terms of service required them to give up their firstborn. If they didn't yet have one, they had until 2050 to do so. That's fair enough. The privacy policy said that their data would be given to the NSA and employers as well. Of the few participants who read those clauses, they signed up anyway. So either they're dumb, which I think a lot of college students are, either they're dumb or they're just really not caring what they do. You know, there's a lot of people who are very, perhaps they have a nihilistic approach to tech, you know, where we sort of say, it doesn't really matter because it's going to happen anyway. You know, nothing really matters on the internet because it's going to happen anyway. Be real. It doesn't matter anyway. You know, it's just too little too late. That's kind of the opinion. That's kind of the feeling with a lot of internet stuff. Like, does anyone read the terms of service agreement for like Facebook? No. I mean, who in their right mind would? It's so long. It's like as long as the collected works of Shakespeare and Charles Dickens combined. It's freaking long. No one's going to read that. So you don't, and you hit agree anyway, and now who knows what you've agreed to. The paper, anyway, is called The Biggest Lie on the Internet, Ignoring the Privacy Policies and Terms of Service Policies of Social Networking Sites. It was written by Jonathan Obar, who teaches communications technologies at York University, and Ann Oldorf Hirsch, a University of Connecticut communications assistant professor. And the survey went participants who were undergraduate students recruited from a large communication class at a university in the eastern United States, which I hope is not UTC. The study said that the students were deceived and told that the university was working with NameDrop and that they'd be contributing to a pre-launch evaluation, and they needed to sign up for the site to perform their analysis. And basically none of them actually read the terms of service agreement. 399 of the 543 students skipped reading it, and the rest click join anyway. The bulk of those who did read the actual terms of service agreement spent about a minute, the study found, which is not nearly enough time unless you're a world champion speed reader to figure out what the dang thing actually says, which doesn't really surprise anyone, unfortunately. You remember you hearing the news about Google buying up that company, LinkedIn, which most of us use for our professional accounts. It's like a professional social network. And I'm kind of sick of social networks, I will admit. I'm a little bit sick of them. I use them, but I'm kind of tired of them. Like Twitter is inundated with people who I don't agree with. Facebook is inundated with even more people who I don't agree with. And I don't defriend them or unfollow them. I just sort of get burned out on it and don't read it anymore. Especially like family members who are like, I should get free stuff, because I've contributed to society or something, sure. I think that we should adopt a system that's a lot more like Starship Troopers where, in order to vote, you have to go fight in the off-world colonies. You got to fight giant insectoids before you can actually vote in the elections, which I think would cull a lot of the idiots that we have today, like people who are burned out and don't really do anything. They sit on their couches all day and they watch CNN and they're like, I'm informed. And they go to the voting booths and they say, yeah, vote for the Green Party because that's going to make a difference, even though it's really not. And they think that voting matters. And they think that, sharing things on Facebook is going to change anyone's opinion of anything because it doesn't. So I don't know. It's all stupid, but people generally are. Google and LinkedIn have worked out a deal that will see the Mountain View neighbors swap a few million square feet of real estate. Silicon Valley Business Journal reported the deal, which should help alleviate both companies' space problems and give Google room to develop its futuristic Canopy campus. See, Google has one of the coolest campuses ever, and Google is one of those companies that does everything in kind of a cool way, except redesigning their logo, because the new Google logo is horrible. It actually is. I hate the new simplistic design that all these companies are taking. It's like, here's a material design poster for Blade Runner, and it's terrible, horrible. Here's a minimalistic poster for Star Wars. It's horrible. It's awful stuff. Terrible designs. And Google is guilty of this as well, because Google markets, of course, to the young hipsters who went to a liberal arts college and got a degree in like art or something else that doesn't matter. I didn't go to college. I'll freely admit I didn't go. I'm glad I didn't go, because every time I talk to someone who did go, they wish they hadn't, unless they got some art degree and they think that it was worth it because they met, people who shared weed with them and they went to clubs and stuff. Not worth it. Not worth it at all. If you're thinking about going to college, unless you're getting a degree in something you actually need to get a degree in, don't go. It's going to ruin your finances for the rest of your life. And it's going to ruin your brain for the rest of your life, because it's going to condition you into thinking a certain way that doesn't actually work in the real world. Because let me tell you, college and business don't mesh very well. You go to a college business course and then you get dumped in the real world and you'll find out that people don't act like they do in your courses. People are not like they are in your business class. People will act irrationally. They will be irrational. And the economics I taught you 9 times out of 10 don't work, because it's on a national level, not on a local one. So good luck with that, buddy. Don't go to college. Don't. I'm telling you, don't do it. Like, seriously, don't. But anyway, Google will receive all of LinkedIn's existing Mountain View territory, which consists of LinkedIn's 370,000 square feet headquarters. Nice. And almost 8 acres of land that LinkedIn has planned on turning into office space. LinkedIn will move a few miles across town into 4 office buildings currently owned by Google that come out to about 750,000 square feet of office space. LinkedIn instantly gets to double its office space, which is a good movie, by the way, Office Space, while avoiding a costly 5 to 6 year construction project. And Google gets the space and building rights it needs to build the crazy indoor/outdoor spiderweb canopy utopia hipster building that it wants to build. So congratulations to Google. It has infinite amounts of money and can build whatever it wants, which is cool. I'm happy for Google, because Google provides a almost utilitarian service. By utilitarian, I mean it's almost like a utility, right? Like when you are without Google, it's the worst thing on the planet. We don't even think about it when we have it, but when we are without it, it's basically the worst thing ever. Like, I cannot go camping. I don't like the outdoors. I don't like going outdoors. I don't like tents. I don't like leaves. I don't like small animals. So I don't like camping very much. And whenever my family makes me go camping, because you got to spend time with your family at some point, whenever my family makes me go camping, it's basically the worst thing ever, because there's no 4G, there's no Wi-Fi, and I don't know what's going on. And as a news director at a reputable news station here in Chattanooga, I kind of have to know what's happening or I go nuts, because I have to have that constant stream of information coming into my synapses, or I just go nuts. I lose it. Some people are the opposite. Where like getting information into their brains feels like waterboarding and or like Chinese water torture. Both of them have water. What is it with water and torture? I don't get it. But both of them are just torturous to them. And to me, I think getting a constant stream of information is extremely useful, and I want more of it. Anyway, by the way, this is breaking just now. David Cameron, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, is resigning basically right now. He's giving a speech to the press in the United Kingdom. David Cameron, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, stepping down, and he's speaking on his last day as Prime Minister right now. David Cameron, Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, stepping down from his post, which he has held for quite a few years and has gotten many complaints now. So he is leaving his office as Prime Minister. He says, "We have used our strong economy to invest in health services," which is one of the strong points of his campaign, one of the things he's proud of. But he's now stepping down following the chaos that was Brexit. Will it be good for the country? Will it be bad for the country? Will it be good for the European Union or bad for the European Union? We'll have to see. To wait and see. Back to the news. Skype is finally coming back to Linux, and it's about dang time. If you've used Skype on Linux in the last 5 years, it's been horrible. It's been really bad because they've not updated the client in ever. Microsoft bought Skype is the thing. And Microsoft has had kind of a bad relationship until just recently with the Linux open source community. Their new CEO, Satya Nadella, has actually been pretty good with open source stuff. So I'm pretty happy with Satya Nadella. But Steve Ballmer he didn't like Linux at all. He didn't like open source anything. And it's kind of a good thing they got rid of him. But the Skype client for Linux has been long abandoned, and it's stuck on version 4.3 compared to version 7 on Windows, which is one of the only things on Windows that actually is 7 nowadays. But Microsoft has now belatedly recognized that Skype is at its most desirable when it's available on every platform, including Linux, because believe it or not, Linux users want to chat with their friends too. The new client has now 2 versions. There's a Linux app for users of traditional Linux systems, and there's the Skype web client, which is supported in Chrome on Linux and Chromebooks running Chrome OS. So if you are into free and open source software, and then paradoxically use Chrome OS, or maybe contradictorily use Chrome OS, or you use the Chrome web browser, you can now chat on Skype with your buddies across the planet, and now you'll be much happier than you were before. Back to Pokemon Go. Cops are now warning Pokemon Go players, please stop trespassing. Please stop doing it. Law enforcement agencies around the globe are now informing citizens that they should not trespass on other people's property, even if it is to catch them all. The new crazy popular mobile game has led to some frightening results in recent days, such as the location and finding of a dead body and robberies of players in Missouri where they were baited with Pokemon, perhaps? Not a Pokemon player. They were baited with multiple Poke people, and they were, I know that's wrong, and they were actually robbed of their items. On Monday, San Francisco Police Department Captain Raj Vaswani warned in one online posting, my Southern is breaking through, for players to obey traffic laws, please, saying, do not run into trees, meters, and things that are attached to the sidewalk. They hurt, he said. Ooh, this guy's funny. Do not drive or ride your bike / skateboard / hipster techie device while interacting with the app. Know where your kids are going while playing with the app. Set limits on where they can go so they don't keep going trying to get that Pokemon, says the chief of police in San Francisco. He's a funny guy. I like him. Funny guy. But yeah, no, really, people actually did find a dead body on Pokemon Go. Well, I mean, it wasn't marked as a landmark or anything, but people were playing Pokemon Go, and they found a formerly alive person while doing that. After the Wednesday launch of Pokemon Go, the first augmented reality Pokemon game for smartphones, which we all know about, they found a body. According to a Friday report from the Wyoming news site County 10, 19-year-old Shayla Wiggins told reporters that she found a dead body floating in a river near her house. She only walked to the river because she had Pokemon Go on her phone. So Pokemon Go, now a bringer of justice perhaps, Wiggins climbed a fence near her home and walked to the river in question, where she reports that she found a grown man, as opposed to a half-grown man, a grown man floating in the water. Wiggins alerted authorities immediately. who then later told the public that they did not suspect foul play. Representatives for the company Niantic, which runs the app, declined to answer any requests for comment. So we don't really know what the CEO of Niantic has to say about it, although I don't know how useful his statements would be other than we're sorry for the loss and please keep playing Pokemon Go, basically would be what his statement would say. You know, you can tell a statement is insincere and staged when the phrase deep concern or deeply sorry are used in it, or continued support. Those phrases are always sort of buzzwords that speechwriters and scriptwriters love to throw in there. I'm not sure why, but say the president will say something like, we are deeply concerned about the increase in aggression on the Ukrainian border. Deeply concerned. You know, they'll say something like that. We are deeply concerned. They will always, without fail, use a phrase like that. Any government always will. It never fails. Doesn't matter what government it is, it will always use the phrase deeply concerned at one point or another. Or now more than ever is another one that I think Fox invented, believe it or not. Now more than ever. Another one of those phrases that the companies and governments will always use. It never fails. And it's a symbol of insincerity to me. So for the first time now, a federal judge has done something good. No, for the first time ever, a federal judge has tossed evidence that was obtained via a stingray. Now, stingray is something that we actually haven't talked about nearly enough, and we haven't talked about recently. Stingray is a device that's used by law enforcement agencies in order to unlawfully, I will say, gather information from people's smartphones. What it does is it pretends to be a cell phone tower. Your phone connects to it thinking that it is a cell phone tower, and your information is sort of washed through it. So these devices will pick up that data and carry it along to law enforcement agencies. Well, on Thursday, and it's done without warrant. That's the kicker. On Thursday, a U.S. federal judge in New York delivered a crucial rebuke to the government's warrantless use of stingrays. In a 14-page opinion, the judge ruled that the government could not use its stingray to locate a drug suspect asleep in his apartment. As a result of the ruling, the judge suppressed the evidence found in the man's bedroom, a kilogram of cocaine, likely effectively ending the case. Now, this is not to say that law enforcement should not track down people who are selling coke on the streets of New York. That's a good thing. But if cops are going to do that, cops should obtain warrants, right? Like stopping drug trafficking is a noble cause. Doing it without warrants is not. In March of 2016, a state appeals court in Maryland reached a similar finding, but this is believed to be the first federal ruling of its kind that we've seen so far. And a lawyer with the ACLU, or attorney with the ACLU, says this is the first federal ruling I know of in which a judge squarely ruled that the Fourth Amendment requires police to get a warrant to use the stingray and suppressed evidence derived from warrantless use of the technology. Hopefully, this sets a precedent. I really hope this sets a precedent. Not a president, a precedent. As Ars Technica has reported before, and we've talked about here on Binary, cell site simulators known as stingrays, because that's the brand name. It's like you call nose tissue Kleenex. It's the brand name, but we all know what you're talking about when you say Kleenex. Once deployed, the devices intercept data from a target phone along with information from other phones around it. And they falsely said before that it doesn't do that, but it does. We all know it. They've lied before. Well, they collect this information without warrant, and now it is definitely, unquestionably been found to be illegal by a federal judge in the New York district, or a New York district, I should say. In an email, a Department of Justice spokesman, Peter Carr, didn't say whether the government would be appealing to the Second Circuit, saying, "We are declining to comment at the moment." He wrote, "We will let you know if that changes." So hopefully, the government will stop using this stingray. But the thing is, because we know about it, we have to know then that there is something else that is still secret that we don't know about that they're using to gather your information. It's sad that that is the case, but that is the case. If we know about Stingray, that means then that there's something even more secret that's being used to gather your information that we just don't know about. And it was previously the case that, and it may still be, the cops would sign non-disclosure agreements and would be barred from ever talking about what method they used to gather that information that they're bringing before a judge. And more often than not, the judge would go for it. But in this case, the judge did not. And believe it or not, the police departments and the FBI would sign non-disclosure agreements with with the company in question that manufactures the Stingray devices, Armstrong in this case, and they'd be barred completely from talking about Stingray, even to other law enforcement agencies and to judges. Now, a non-disclosure agreement should not affect a court case at all, but it does, and that's just the unfortunate truth of it. See, patriots especially have this odd mentality a lot of the time. I'm not knocking patriots at all. I think they're great, but have this odd opinion that because something is illegal, it won't happen, and maybe we can stop it from happening, and it does not work that way. The only way to stop an illegal action from taking place is to fight it in the courts, because otherwise, unless someone fights it, they'll keep doing it. Like, if you get stopped at a traffic stop, arguing with the cop is not going to do anything. You're just going to make him angry, and he's going to maybe write you up for an even bigger fine than he would before. Or maybe he wasn't going to write you up a fine anyway, and now you've made him angry, so he's going to. The right way to fight these things is in court. Take the ticket, take it to court, fight it. Then you can get a decision made. Then you can have them say, okay, this is an illegal traffic stop. You're not going to do that anymore in this law enforcement agency. Arguing with the cop isn't going to do anything. And saying, well, that's illegal, you can't do it, isn't going to do anything. You're not going to change anybody's mind. This is Binary here on Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240, hotnewstalkradio.com. Like us on Facebook, Hot News Talk Radio on Facebook. Colin Cowherd coming up next, Hot News Talk Radio.
Hot News Talk 1240 AM